People over 30, what was your biggest regret in your 20s? Two things: not brushing and flossing twice a day, and not saving in my retirement properly. Making someone my everything when all I was to them was an option. Never allow someone to be your priority while allowing yourself to be their option. Mark Twain. I was in too much of a hurry to be an adult. Low self-esteem pushed me to prove I was good enough, so I rushed to get married. To have kids. To be a grown-up. And how did that end up, if you don't mind sharing? Are you saying that because you ended up in a bad marriage or divorced? Or just because you regret not having fun, traveling, for example, before marrying? Very bad marriage. Dropped out of school, went through some really tough times that ended in my doing a stint in jail. I did have my two oldest children then, but in hindsight I was entirely unprepared for parenthood at the time, and definitely did them a disservice having to deal with my crap until I actually grew up and was able to reapply myself to the job at hand. Waiting until my late 20s to get in shape. Should have done it in my teens, to be honest. Me? Waiting until my late 30s to get in shape. Should have done it in my 20s, to be honest. If it makes you feel any better. I'm 35 and just did my first pull-up ever last week. Feels good, man. But also kind of bad. Not saving enough. Could you tell why you weren't able to? Hiding away like a hermit instead of addressing my crippling social anxiety. It doesn't get easier. The loneliness hurts more and more each day. Credit cards. Not traveling more. People always told me it only gets harder when you're older. They were right. Thinking I needed anyone's approval. Permission only holds you back. Drinking and partying too much when I should have focused in school. I just finished freshman year and didn't party once. Regretting that too. Selling drugs. And using. That I didn't seek help for my depression and anxiety in my early 20s and let it become a bigger problem in my later years. I ignored it to the point where I hit rock bottom, living out of my car next to a 24-hour gym. Once I started seeking a way out, I slowly started to rebuild myself to where I am now. A happy 30-year-old. Not learning about programming. I started my IT career late, early 30s, and feel like now in my 40s that I'm still behind. Not buying a $100 DNA test for the child I raised for 3 years before finding out he wasn't mine. I'm really sorry to hear that, man. Cheating is never ever cool. Staying in a job I hated because I thought it was the only thing I could do. Not taking the risk to start a business before I had a mortgage, car payments, and a family. I have this thought as well, but at the time, although I had no responsibilities, I also had no experience, no assets, and barely any cash flow. Not using protection. Life changed drastically for me because I left my motor running too long. They've grown to wonderful children, and I'm grateful to be her father. She makes me proud, but it was too soon. About 5 to 10 years too soon. Having children in my 20s. I should have waited until my 30s after I settled down. I'm the opposite. I had the first one at 31 and thought, oh man, I should have done this earlier. Selling my Apple stock, Netflix stock, and not buying a house in San Francisco 10 years ago. Do not beat yourself up for decisions that you thought were smart at the time. Not exercising and working out enough. That back pain is hitting now. Just turned 30. Don't put off living and doing things you want because you aren't happy about something in your life. An example would be if you aren't happy with your body. So you hold off going on dates with people until you can get fit. What happens if you never end up getting as fit as you would like? Just doomed to be alone forever? You still need to do things that make you happy now. Not being braver with attractive females, and not buying stocks when I was young. I thought this said socks and found myself nodding for some reason. Invest in socks. They only ever go up. Can't get lower than the floor. Right? Never asking a girl out, consequently never getting into a relationship. I thought I was going to be the best employee at every job I had because I was smart enough to identify problems and flaws. Only now that I'm older do I realize employers want someone who can do that and also solve those problems. So my regret is that I didn't bring to my employers problems and solutions. 2 things. 1. Taking regular walks. 2. Learning a language fluently. I've done a lot of the stuff on this thread. I learned the skill in my 20s. I saved money. I lived hard. I've been in shape. I've traveled. But I'm just starting to learn other languages. And I didn't start taking walks to let my mind wander until my 30s. The walks are so freeing. I forgot about the walks I used to take. Thanks, I'm gonna go wander today. It really does become a mind thing as much as fitness. Being afraid of the dentist, not taking care of myself, and working a dead-end job. Being a massive idiot. Smoking weed. Being constantly broke and stoned. Not enough sex. Should have been braver with girls, not worried so much about being rejected. Having more of a screw you attitude when it came to problems. Not feeling sorry for myself. My first marriage. Holy crap, that was a train wreck. Not my 20s, but more when I was younger. I wish I'd been more true to myself when choosing a degree, such that I didn't have to start everything over at 21 and go into the job market late. Probably focusing too much on making myself financially stable instead of making some time for looking for the one. Now in my 30s, I have barely any idea about the dating game. Still, I'll try and know more about it and cling on to the hope that I'll find her someday. Turning down the chance to study abroad because my new boyfriend didn't want me to go. During university, living in dorms with my boyfriend. And just hanging out with my boyfriend all the time. All the while neglecting my friends and family. I'd be closer to them now if I'd changed. Not being ambitious enough. I was taking it too easy. Now I realize how much more I can do when I push myself. I slept around, drank too much and didn't save money. I had a blast, but now in my late 30s, I feel I should have been more productive. I have a good job and a family, but it feels like I was late getting my crap together. It's not a race. I just turned 30 in April, and my biggest regret is wasting my 20s doing heroin. I started in my teens, but it got bad in my 20s. 22 through 26 was just me using and bouncing from rehab to rehab. Feels like I lost a decade of my life. Doing methamphetamine and joining the military to get clean. I should have got clean and went to trade school to be an electrician. Going to college to make other people happy. Never should have wasted that time and expense. My diet. I wish I took it seriously. Having a girlfriend who I knew deep down I wasn't going to be with forever, who I allowed to make me miserable. I regret not helping that Nigerian prince reclaim his inheritance. Not preventing a hostile takeover of an event committee which ended an event which had a solid run for 5 years. My choice in major. Majored in biology. Should have majored in marketing. Accounting or computer science. Spending all my energy on partying. I didn't try harder in college, also not looking after myself as well as I should have. Seems like it's either being too brave or not brave enough. I got married at 21. What an idiot. I got divorced 2 years later. Letting myself believe that being smart meant I would be successful. Marrying the first man I kissed, not taking my career seriously. I invested in him instead of me. I'm not saying it was wrong, but it wasn't right at all. I wish I would have done me and not been so scared to disappoint someone else. I wouldn't call it my biggest regret, nor would I call it particularly smart. But I often think of the party I went to in my early 20s, where I turned down a girl who offered me ecstasy. I had a chance to be adventurous and impulsive, and I turned it down to be smart and safe. And I've always regretted it. You can do drugs at any age, you know. Just find a decent music festival and go nuts. I've done acid with 60-year-olds. Don't let social stigmas about age limit you. None. I did so much, and it was a variety of stuff. I started a business, got a corporate job, partied every night, married my wife, made music that appeared in shows, quit music, and so much more in between. Was I living the Dan Bilzerian life? Nah. But the diversity of it makes me smile as I type this.